inviting you to express your condolences to those who lost loved ones in the single worst battle loss in 10 years in Afghanistan. So if you'd like to email them to me, I'll be sure to share them. I'm at lynn@lynndoyle.net, or you can leave them on our Facebook page. That's Lynn Doyle, or Lynn, it's your call, Doyle. We are particularly proud of one Navy SEAL who originated from Comcast's hometown of Philadelphia, Michael Strange, who was among more than 20 other Navy SEALs and 8 other American troops who perished when their helicopter was downed during an offensive with the Taliban. Hello again, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle, and as you can see, our topic on It's Your Call today is the Navy SEALs. We wanted to share some of the comments that have been made on social media sites regarding the Navy SEALs and the brave soldiers who gave their lives. We're going to do that now. Colleen has written us and says, quote, "My heart goes out to those who have lost loved ones. Their service and sacrifice is appreciated. They will never be forgotten." Luke thinks, quote, "The Navy SEALs are an elite fighting unit and have to be the biggest heroes our country has to offer. Every kid wants to be a LeBron James or a Derek Jeter, but our men and women in the service are the ones our kids should be looking up to." I have to agree with you on that one. And Doug says he has a question for our panel. As a Navy SEAL, what was the scariest situation you ever found yourself in? If you'd like to ask a question or send a comment our way, feel free to go ahead and do so. What, Tony, was perhaps the scariest thing you encountered?
You know, I guess operationally, some of the stuff that I did, this was years ago, we did some operations in and around Mogadishu in Africa, and I was 23, maybe 24 years old at the time, and assistant platoon commander. So, you know, at that point, you're going across the beach in uncertain territory, and, you know, I'm worried about my teammates and the responsibility there, and that really strikes you. There's a young lieutenant, junior grade, the amount of responsibility you have on your shoulders. So, you know, that was my moment. Seems
like it would be overwhelming. How about you?
I had some really scary experiences in Iraq, but I was comforted by the fact that the professionals that I worked with, the solid, dedicated professionals I worked with, and the training that I received helped me overcome those fears.
Well, as we said earlier in the show, it takes an enormous amount of mental courage and physical well-being in order to be a member of the elite unit known as the Navy SEALs. If you have questions or comments about it, our guests are being very generous in answering them. Back to my Facebook page, Dennis asked, first, that we thank you for the service that you've provided to our country, and to thank all of our troops, not just the Navy SEALs. But one question that he has in particular has to do with drown proofing. Can you explain what drown proofing is?
Sure. First, I want to thank Dennis and all the other Americans that are out there saluting the brave men and women who are honorably serving our country right now in harm's way. Drown proofing is basically one of a numerous sets of tests that the SEAL training does to test how people handle under pressure. And basically, the more you're experienced to pressure, especially dangerous types of pressure, the more likely you are to react a certain way, the way that they're trying to teach you to react. And drown proofing is basically you have your hands tied behind your back, and you have your ankles tied, and basically all you have to do is, it's real comfortable. You just have to relax, go to the bottom of the pool, and then kick right up. And once you're back up, you take a breath, just relax, and go back down and kick back up. It's just another small series of tests to help someone learn how to handle stress.
For how long do you have to do that?
You know, it's been a while since I've been in training. I imagine, you know, I had to do it for maybe 5 minutes. It was very easy, and I don't think relatively few people in our class had any difficulty with that small test.
So you say that in such a cavalier way, but to me, that's heart-wrenching. That just scares the life out of me. I can't even imagine it.
Well, just building on what Bill was saying, and what we talked about earlier, it's a series of screens, right? So you begin with drown proofing. That's early on in first phase, the first phase of BUD/S training. If you can't pass that, then you really have no business being in training. So, you know, most of the trainees do make it because you've had some practice before you get to the drown proofing test. But if you can't do that, if you can't be comfortable enough in the water to do what he just described, then there's no way you're going to do the stuff that's subsequent to that.
Well, I was just going to say, that sounds very harrowing to me. You mean it gets even worse? Can you give us, without revealing anything you're not supposed to reveal, an idea of another physical challenge?
Sure. You know, the second phase of training is dive phase, or it was for me. You know, when I went through training a long time ago now, and in dive phase, you go through what's called pool comp. It's a test where you're trying to see how well you handle your dive equipment in a pool. So it's a controlled environment. That's the idea why it's conducted in a pool before putting you out into the open ocean. And without getting into a lot of detail, they will, the instructors will go down into the water and remove all of your equipment, tie up your hoses in a way that don't allow you to breathe out of those hoses. They're low pressure lines versus high pressure lines. Many scuba divers will think, well, it's tied up, you can breathe off a high pressure line. These are low pressure lines, so when they're knotted, you can't breathe. Your problem at that point then is to untie those hoses, get air to yourself, and if you can't, you're expected to control the situation and then do what's called a free ascent. That's seen as better than panicking and going to the surface.
And that's very important because there's something called Boyle's Law, where air that is compressed as it rises to the surface, it expands. So if you don't do a free surface ascent, you could actually puncture your lungs. So it's another series of steps on how SEAL candidates will adapt under stressful situations. And you think about the different elements that SEAL is working, and I think this is one of the things that really makes us different than the other special forces, as we really work in all different elements of every element there is on this planet. And if you're talking air ops, so naturally people have a fear of heights. Well, we're doing all types of advanced things out of airplanes. And at the same time, underwater, naturally people have a fear of drowning. So these are all different numerous types of fears that every SEAL candidate, successful SEAL, has to overcome.
And we should point out again that you said earlier in the show, only 1 out of every 5 candidates actually makes it through the entire program. And then even in the program, they continue to be weeded out before they get to serve in a situation like we saw in Afghanistan.
1 out of 5 makes it to the SEAL teams after BUDS, and then at the SEAL teams, there's still a continued screening.
Unbelievable. All right, gentlemen, thanks very much. We're going to continue our conversation here in just a moment, but we do encourage our viewers to send comments. You've been reading some of them along the bottom of the screen there, comments about those that were lost most recently in Afghanistan. If you'd like to share your thoughts with us, comments, have questions, go ahead and email us now.